Right, my name's Francis Mizuro. I'm the nurseries manager for Hargreaves Plants. My actual background is ornamentals. I spent 20 years in the ornamentals industry, working with Proculture and Meredith, propagating. I came into Hargreaves 2 years ago with very little knowledge of soft fruit. I'd have to say it's been a very steep learning curve in the last 2 years. To give you some idea, I was 6'5", full head of hair and weighed 12 stone. But anyway, we're getting there, and obviously we're taking the basic premise that if you can propagate one type of product, obviously it's attention to detail, and obviously we can then follow through and learn about other varieties. Today I want to talk to you about delivering the range. We have a wide range of products within the business, and as I will explain to you in a little bit, we also have brought in an ornamental range to the business, obviously with my knowledge, to try and extend our season within the business. To start with, I just thought I'd come straight in with some numbers to give you an idea about Hargreaves, about the business, about how it's located, and where it fits in within the industry as a whole. Hargreaves Plants is traditionally a berry fruit and asparagus plant nursery. Traditionally they were a soft fruit producing business, but in the last 20 years have become more synonymous with the production of propagated soft fruit plants. To give you an idea of the volumes that we're producing, we have annual plant sales in our berry fruits, strawberries, 25 million plants. This is predominantly done on our open field propagation unit. Bare root runners produced in the field. Raspberries, 3 million canes, some modules and 9 centimetre pots. Blackberries, this again is modules predominantly, and again field grown blackberries. More recently is our blueberry production. This starts in our tissue culture laboratory. We're supplying this into modules, and more recently into 9 centimetre pots into the industry. A very new part of the business is the asparagus. We now produce over 5 million crowns. This has become quite an important part of our business and is continuing to expand. As I said to you, the ornamentals part of the business we've only introduced in the last 2 years. This is down at our new facility at Huntingdon, Cuckoo Bridge Nursery, just north of Cambridge. The sales for this year, we've sold 1.2 million perennials, bedding plants 800,000, and herbs is our biggest line, is 1.75 million. These are all propagated modules, anything from a 144 cell through to a 40mm 60 cell, which you can see in the picture, and that's the famous hand. Hillington is our head office. That is just north of King's Lynn, next to Sandringham. Our neighbour is actually the Queen, so we couldn't go much higher in society than that. We've actually been mentioned in dispatches. Apparently Her Majesty stood overlooking our fields of fleece, commenting on what the water was and whether that lake was a new one. So we'll leave it at that for now and keep our heads down, I think. Also, our field grown production is also based at Hillington. We've actually only moved to Hillington as a head office 6 months ago because of the volumes of product that is coming out of our Hillington nursery. The cold stores are now situated on site, and also obviously head office, and it's made a much more smooth running of that part of the business. Field grown propagation, as I said, strawberry runners are grown in our very open sandland. As you can see, we're growing by varieties. Obviously tractor production, big large scale production. Every slideshow has to have a picture of a tractor, so I thought I'd put 2 on here to show you. Our raspberries are grown in canes, and obviously asparagus are grown on also in this area. All of our product is actually starting life in our tissue culture laboratory, which is now based at Huntingdon. So the strawberries that you see here are high health. The one thing coming into the soft fruit industry that I have to say has taken me quite by surprise is the importance on high health elite material. So the strawberries that you see here planted will have either have come from weaned tissue culture plants, which will be weaned at Huntingdon. They will come out of the tissue culture laboratory in January. They'll be weaned on the nursery, and they will actually be planted in the field as quite a small cell plant in about week 14 or 15. This then becomes the mother. The mother then is expected to produce between 8 to 12 daughters. Those daughters will then be harvested by the teams of staff the following autumn. Similarly, with the raspberry canes, similar process. Again, a lot of plugs or equally 9 centimetre liners that are produced on one of our other nurseries. Just this slide really to show you that the land, it is, as I say, very much sandy soil. It's nice and open, obviously, and it's very well drained. This facilitates particularly the lifting in November, December. It always amazes me when we've had the wettest autumn that we can actually get on the land and actually lift the product. Obviously that's imperative that we get it lifted on time to get it into the cold store so that we can supply our customers the following spring. It's an 1,100 acre holding. Obviously that's not all Hargreaves. We also have a farming business. The farming business then, obviously, we work together, rotating the crops, rotating the land, so that obviously we've got a constant use of the land all year round. The two original nurseries are based in Long Sutton. This is just north of Wisbech and is about 40 minutes from our Hillington site. We have our Crosskeys nursery, Clifton's nursery, and also our trial site. Crosskeys nursery predominantly houses our F1 strawberry stock and our pot-grown raspberry and blackberry plants. Strawberry mother stock originates from NACT, so it's coming from High Health. It comes in as a rooted product, often in vermiculite or some very inert structure. As you can see, you probably can't quite see, it's actually a gauzed house. It is regulated by DEFRA. They will come and check us 3 times a year to make sure, obviously, that the product in here that we are claiming is high health, F1 elite material, keeps that health grade. We plant the runner or the mother into basically wooden bins which are filled with coir. We will plant the runner into the corner of the bin, and that will then runner throughout the season, and we will actually peg it and train it to allow it to obviously fill as much of that bin as we possibly can. These are runners that we've then harvested, again in the gauze house. So we have part of the gauze house which is down to plug production or young plant production. In this case, it's a trough situation with coir already put in it. And again, by keeping it in the same area, in the same house, allows us to maintain that health grade. These plants are then taken to our field operation and planted in October. Also, our blackberry and raspberry propagation. The material, again, as I've already touched on, originates from our tissue culture lab. Because of the cost of producing the tissue culture material, we then have to make the whole process commercial. So in order to do that, we actually plant 6 mother tissue culture plugs into a trough in February. These then are grown through the season. This is a Spanish tunnel. As you can see, this is a 6 foot high now. This was taken last week, so it gives an indication of the crop, how it is at this stage of the year. It is allowed to flower, it is allowed to fruit. We check that it is true to type. In about 8 weeks' time, once the plants have shut down and gone into dormancy, we will take the troughs, we will actually cut them off just at the top of the trough. We will then move this product to our Huntingdon nursery, and we will literally take this root structure here and we will slice it in half, straight down the middle. We will then place 2 of our root balls into another trough. We will layer that then with about 1.5 inches of coir, and then we will place them into pretty much a cold tunnel, but that tunnel will then be tented to allow the product to have a little bit of heat. We're looking at ambient heat, so we're looking at about a 20 degree, 22 degree type temperature, and then what will happen is that new root system planted in the new trough will then start to produce cuttings. We would expect a trough to produce about 500 cuttings in a season. Obviously it becomes tired. The later cuttings, perhaps the last 10% of cuttings, don't quite have the vigour that the main structure of cuttings do, but that is the process. So straight away we've taken quite a high cost of 6 tissue culture plants. It's a 12-month cycle, I understand, but it does mean that we're able to produce a high health grade blackberry and raspberry in a fairly commercial manner, as cheaply as we can possibly do that. All our modules are then stuck into, all our cuttings are then stuck into modules. The modules, we do a lot of export. I would suggest that 60% of our modules now are going into Spain and Mexico and that sort of area. They're then grown on, obviously, for the fruits. I will touch briefly on the fact that within Hargreaves, these are our own varieties that you're looking at. This is a variety called Reuben, which is a prima cane. And also very cleverly, I think it's industry standard, but it seems quite clever to me, we also receive a royalty based on the fruiting and the levels of fruit that are actually produced when the crop is being cropped. It's a shame we can't do that with numbers of flowers in ornamentals. Our Clifton's nursery is about 4 miles away from Crosskeys. Here is where we produce our strawberry plants, our mother stock, and our everbearer and June bearers. Again, as I've already touched on, the plants are produced, originate from our tissue culture stock. The cutting material or the lab material is taken from the high health house that you saw in the autumn. We will then put that into the lab. We will produce them up to a stage 3 level. They will then come out to the nursery just after Christmas. We will put them into a very small 104 cell where they will obviously be weaned. They will stay there till about week 12, when we will then move them up to our Clifton's nursery, and we plant them into grow bags on a very traditional tabletop system. The nursery itself is a mixture of glass and Spanish tunnels. To be honest, we tend to put the June bearers under the glass because obviously we have requirement for that material sooner than the everbearers, and the everbearers tend to go into the Spanish tunnel situation. As you can see here, there are no flowers. There is not a lot of fruit. Well, there is no fruit because obviously we're interested in runner production, and that is what we need. So these plants are purely pushed to get as much runner production. We're looking. It depends on the variety. I touch here about the varieties. The June bearer varieties that we use are Vibrant and Fenella. Now, something like Vibrant may only produce 25 tips per mother, and that's probably pushing it, to be honest, with the June bearers. The everbearers is a different situation. Buddy is quite low. We're producing the buddy cuttings in August. Buddy may be only 30 tips per mother, whereas something like Portola this year, we've even with the sort of slow start in March, we touched about 75 tips per mother. So it is very much dependent on the variety and the conditions with the level of tips that we're going to produce. Again, all the cuttings go into modules. Just quickly touch on the actual process of producing the young plants. Obviously, we're harvesting the cuttings. We work very hard to get the cuttings even when we start. In this instance, they're produced on the floor. It's very basic. It's open-sided glass beyond the unit that they're in. We obviously keep them as humid as we can within the compartments. The product is stuck by gangs of people. In the case of the strawberries, they go on piecework because it's very easy to monitor high levels. If you're sticking 500,000, several million cuttings, it's quite an easy way to monitor what the staff are doing. Obviously, we need to keep the plants free from pest and disease. We use very much a lot of biocontrol, and obviously we back the process up with chemical where necessarily. Obviously we're here, as you can see, we're looking for a good product, very well rooted and hopefully nice and even. The product is then supplied to our customers as a module, or alternatively we actually pop them into a tray plant situation, which you can see here. We're looking, a tray plant is a tray essentially with 12 units in, and it's quite a deep if I say a 9 centimetre pot, it's a deep 9 centimetre pot. We're essentially looking for that root structure. So these were planted in July. Obviously, it giving us enough time to get the plant established within the area that it's growing. It'll be then left to go dormant and close down, and we'll actually come back after Christmas. We will then lift these, we'll pack them, and then they will cold store until they go out to the customers in the following March. Blueberry, I touched on earlier, is quite a new venture for the business. It seems to be something that's expanding. There seems to be a lot of people growing them. We do a lot into mail order, funnily enough. Chris touched earlier on to the mail order market. It seems to be very popular with the mail order customers, and also in this format. You know, you tend to traditionally think of a mail order customer supplying in a 40 millimetre plug. Well, actually they're putting these in the post as they are. Again, the product is originating in our lab. We're being potted into June into the 9 centimetre that see you in front of you. We're looking for a nice, good root system that you can see here. And just really this slide here is to illustrate to you the evenness of the crop, which is back to it becoming from a tissue culture background. Our trial site, again, is relatively new. It's about 5 or 6 years old. We put all our trial varieties into the trial site. Very wide, modern style Spanish tunnel. What we're trying to do here is replicate our commercial trials, because we have a lot of our commercial growers will actually come and visit. They'll take the time out to come and see the product and to see how we're growing it and have a look at our new varieties. There's no point not giving them something that stands up within the commercial growing world. So really we're looking very hard here to try and replicate what we're doing out in the commercial sector. Obviously then, if we have a product that's susceptible to mildew or isn't fruiting terribly well, it all shows up within this environment. We do picking of the product on a weekly basis. We will monitor the fruit for taste. So within the strawberries, we're looking at bricks, the sweetness of the strawberry. We're looking at the toughness of the strawberry. We're looking at the size of the strawberry. We're looking at the colour of the strawberry. All these things are actually being monitored and recorded on a weekly basis. And obviously finally, and obviously very important for all our customers, is shelf life and yield, because obviously they need as good a yield from the product as they can get. Customers are always welcome. Last year we were honoured because we had Jamie Oliver's tasting team who came to our trial site and tasted our strawberries. Jamie Oliver wasn't there, this was his own specific tasting team, so they came to have a look. Finally is the acquisition of Huntingdon. This is 2 years ago. Huntingdon Nursery is based just north of Cambridge, just off the A14. It's nicely situated within the network, and all those customers that really don't want to travel all the way up to Hillington, we find like to meet us now at Huntingdon. More recently is the tissue culture laboratory, which has also been built at the Huntingdon Nursery. The nursery here is a 4-acre block of glass. It's benched. It's a very nice piece of glass. And more recently, Hargreaves have invested quite heavily into updating the site. We now have fully functioning screens, which is quite a help. And we've more recently as well, we've put in a rainwater collection system. So obviously 4 acres of glass is a big area of glass. So we're now collecting all the water that's running off the roof. That's going into a catch pit. Once the water in the catch pit reaches a certain level, it throws a switch, and that's going into our lagoon. And then we've put in a new treatment facility that as the water comes out, we're treating for Pythiums phytophthora. We're also monitoring now the pH and EC levels. The water here is particularly hard, but also our bicarb level is very high. I used to grow and work in Evesham, the water was similarly hard, but we had a very low bicarb and seemed to get away with more, whereas here, if there is the slightest problem, it shows up very easily. So now being able to control that water gives us a lot more scope and gives us much more control on the product. The nursery also has 4 acres of outdoor open-sided tunnels and also 2 acres of standing out area. What we do find with the bench system particularly, it gives us a huge amount of flexibility within the site. We're able to take product from our potting table in the one corner or potting machine right the way through to the farthest corner of the nursery. Obviously in a monocrop situation like you've got, this is the recent everbearer crop that's come from Clifton's. As you can see, when you're monocropping in this process, it does make life very easy. When you're growing more varieties and less of them, you can always guarantee that you want that table in the middle, and you have to start moving miles of tables to get to the one that you require. Huntingdon has become our major propagation facility now. We're producing in excess of 12 million cuttings on the nursery, and we actually have both fruit and ornamental plants now being produced on this site. In order to facilitate the number of products that are coming through the nursery, we have the sticking line here. The sticking line allows us to seat the staff at stations. They have their own station, they have their own set of equipment. They sit there and they are then governed, that's the wrong word, isn't it? They're monitored really by a supervisor. The supervisor will have a list that will indicate to her the variety, where the source of the material is coming from, the tray sizes that are required, etc., etc. It is her duty then, or her role is then to obviously enter into the sheet what has been stuck, monitor what's been stuck, what's been stuck, and obviously then keep a track of what's going on, any shortages, any problems, and follow that through. Again, here we're sticking strawberry everbearers, slightly different because of the nature of what we're doing. Because it's such big volumes, we also have sort of workstations away from the bench. But the majority here, this allows us to stick up to 500,000 cuttings a week with about 16 people. On the nursery, we also have some stock. Again, this is a tricky one for me. We have a number of customers who, particularly in the mail order sector, who require lesser volumes of more varieties. If you go to people holding mother stock, either in Israel or away from there, they don't want to know unless it's more than sort of 20,000 of a variety. As we know, that's not always possible. So what I do, I have a facility at Huntingdon where we have our own stock holding. This allows us to supply a greater range to the customer and allows us to offer them, you know, a greater range and sometimes quite a different range to what our competitors are offering. It is hard work, and particularly with a mail order customer, we are able to offer the product and to be honest, at a premium, which obviously, hopefully, sets off against the additional work that's required. Just touching on the sticking line, it is quite an important tool for us, and I think tool is the right word to use because obviously with the number of products that are coming through here, we need to have somebody monitoring and guiding the product that's coming in. The girls, as you can see in this instance, are sitting at a workstation. It's all stainless steel, so we're able to clean up between varieties if we need to. The girls are wearing gloves, so we try and keep it as sterile. Obviously, it remains in a nursery environment. I'm not going to pretend it's totally sterile, but it is a clean environment, and we do work hard to keep it clean. Just to point out briefly, the other thing that we do here is we use forceps. Because of the wide range of product that we're using, we tend to use this as a tool, again, a piece of equipment. We find if the girls get used to using the forceps and the staff get used to using them, they don't think necessarily about what they're sticking, and it becomes quite important for us. The bottom line of runners here, the empty trays are supplied on the bottom set of runners, and when they're finished, when the trays are full of cuttings, they go onto the top set of runners and they're pushed away. So the staff on the sticking line will stay there and sit there pretty much all day. Their job is to stick cuttings. They are then supplied and monitored and kept served with cuttings all day by the supervisor. Just touching on the cuttings, this slide indicates really the size of cuttings, the volume of cuttings. We have a lotus here that is very small, and here we have some coleus that, again, are quite a large cutting. I've brought some examples with me, standing here now, whether you'll be able to see, but these are the forceps. So, as I say, they become second nature to the staff. They use them all the time. This is a strawberry cutting. As you see, it's very large. And when you start putting that against a time cutting, we have a huge difference in sizes and varieties. Now, not so much with the strawberry, because obviously it has its own anchor. We can push that into the compost quite well. But if we start messing around with the time cuttings, obviously it starts to bend. We have people trying to push cuttings in. We find that they start to damage the cutting. They start dabbing at it like this. Where the idea of the forceps, you take the forceps, you put it around the stem, you protect the cutting as you enter it into the plug. And this becomes, whether it's a thyme, whether it's something like a lavender, which is a slightly different size. Again, so I've not done this for many, many years, have I? Again, we protect it and enter it into the cell. And then this, again, is a very small salvia cutting, which, again, would be very difficult to insert. The whole point of this is that they actually begin to stop and think about what they're sticking, and more the fact that they're using this to do it. And what we've found is that we're bringing our average up over a weekly basis. Even things like thymes and brassicums, we're sticking nearly 1,000 cuttings an hour per person, and that is the very worst staff to some of the best staff. Now, that is an average. That includes these, which are obviously very quick, and includes these, which are obviously very slow. But I think this is quite an important part of what we do, even though it's fairly insignificant. The tissue culture laboratory, as I say, is new to Huntingdon. It's not new to Hargreaves. It was based at our Long Sutton head office before they moved up to Hillington. It is essentially one very big cold store with refrigerated units on top, and they've been reversed to give us heat. So from an insulation point of view, it's very efficient. This here is the processing room. These are laminar flow cabinets. The staff will sit on the chairs, and this is a positive environment which prevents infection when we're processing cuttings. This is some raspberries in stage 3, which are due to just leave. They're in the petri dish, and they're just about to leave the lab to go out to the nursery to be weaned. Obviously, we hold all our nucleus stock here, all our high health material for everbearers, June bearers, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, and ornamentals. The ornamentals, again, is quite a new introduction, but we're doing quite a lot of cordylines at the moment under contract. The weeding facility is really a halfway house between the laboratory and the nursery. What we found, it's 25% larger than previous facility. We can control the environment completely, so we're giving 16-hour days with the lights. We have a different range of grow lamps, and we are actually looking at LEDs. We're being quite modern and looking at the LEDs and how they can help us. We can control the heat, and obviously we can give humidity up to 90%, reduced down to obviously lower than that. If we need to be very specific, we also tent product within the nursery. To give you an idea of the requirement of the weaning room, when we started with blueberries, we actually found that we were getting a 95% loss from the stage 3 material to the weaning on the nursery. We were obviously taking to the nursery, we were weaning them, we were sticking them with the forceps, we were putting them into our tents and obviously our screened environment on the nursery, but it just still was too harsh. I think the sun and obviously the different temperatures and the conditions that we get out on the nursery, we don't think about it, but when you're getting a plant like this at its very basic stage, it was just too harsh an environment. We've now turned that round to actually we're now getting a 95% success rate in the weaning room. This then doesn't go directly to the nursery, this goes out to the Huntingdon, to the prop area, We then obviously then transfer it, we then wean it further, harden it further before it goes up to our Clifton's nursery to be potted. Product supply, obviously my talk is delivering the range. I've tried to give you a background of the wide range of products that we're doing. This is Hargreaves Plants as the business, and I think what it does show as a soft fruit business, obviously, is this little bit in the middle, which obviously myself as an ornamentals producer just looked at in shock. You know, we spent all these years trying to go cyclamen and poinsettias at the times of the year when it's quiet, when actually this is Hargreaves' busiest time. So I think with the conception of the Huntingdon nursery, the fact that we've got space and the ability and the staff there that had the background, the decision was to have a go at the ornamentals and produce the plugs. As you can see, that does make quite a difference to the supply chain within the 12-month period. All of a sudden, we've got a product situation here that is going out now in the May to August times. It's keeping the nursery full. It's allowing us to run 12 months of the year. It's allowing us to keep hold of staff. We're not, you know, it's reducing our need on seasonal. We're always going to be seasonal, that's not true, but it's our key staff, we're able to maintain them and give them key roles for 12 months of the year, which I've always found difficult because you find that you need them when we're busy. When it's quiet, it's keeping them interested and keeping them motivated. I've talked about the separate sides of the business and all the different departments, and it might feel that we're quite segregated as units. Well, that isn't the case. We're very much dependent on each other as businesses. The nursery business is very much dependent on the microprop business. We're taking all our stage 3 material out of here. The microprop business actually takes cuttings, as I've said, from the F1 house back into the microprop lab. The field is our sort of end user, if that's the right terminology, and obviously is the biggest customer for both the microprop and the nurseries, and the fact that most of our product is coming from the lab, going into the nurseries, and then ultimately into our field production. The field, again, you know, when we are looking at tip production, some of the lower grade tips, some of the lower grade product does come out of the field. But again, that is all registered and we keep control of that product within the unit. So it's a chain within the business, and obviously if that chain is broken, it affects us all. The question is, why does this happen? Well, for me, the reason it doesn't work is when we start having problems with communication. You know, it's most important that our plants and deliveries between the departments is happening on time. And if it's not happening on time, that it's communicated. How do we communicate that? We're actually sitting down as 3 separate departments twice a month. We have production meetings. We go through our issues. We have agendas, and we look at crops. We actually place internal orders within the separate departments so that we actually have paperwork like we would treat a third-party customer who was external to the business. This allows us then to plant our mother stock on time. Obviously fleecing, we get the fleece on. More importantly is that we get the fleece off on time. You know, times I've been round the nursery and the fleece is left off. You open the fleece up, there's problems with botrytis, there's problems with product not having been looked at. So it's all about the timings all the way through, getting the sprays on, basic fertilisers, cultivation and watering. You know, let's get the water on time. Let's have people checking that watering, keeping an eye on the product, paying attention to that little corner over there that tends to dry out and understanding those parts of the business. In the case of the strawberry crops, getting that deflowering done on time. We're all looking for runner material. We're not looking for fruiting. So we have to get that deflowering done on time. And obviously taking of tips and cuttings, harvesting, it's all about timing. The effect of timing on the business, obviously, they play such an important part of what we're doing. You know, if we don't get it right, we start getting reduction in yield. We don't get the number of tips per mother. We don't get the number of runners coming on a mother out in the field. We don't get the level of growth on the gooseberries and on the raspberry canes that we require. You know, again, a lot of our product that's supplied out to our customers is based on size, particularly in the soft fruit industry. So if we don't make that size, it becomes a lower grade. That lower grade means a lower price, and so it knocks on. Plants not ready, customers, obviously we start letting customers down. We've discussed that, I won't go into that in too much detail. Obviously we start upsetting customers. Obviously at that point, we're then reducing our income. And if we're reducing our income, it's dead easy. We start hitting the profit margins. It's all about timing. I just thought I'd touch very briefly, looking, I've only got 8 minutes, so I'll touch very briefly on our products. Erica Raspberry, this is our own variety of primer cane. It's protected by ourselves, and we're pushing that into the market. It's going a lot into the European market. I would say 70% of our Erica modules are actually going abroad. It's a good variety. It's got consistent shape on the fruit, and it has been parodied or put alongside Tulamine as a variety. And again, as I've already said, we're exporting that. Reuben Blackberry, we've been through the process. We have a collaboration with a breeder over in Arkansas, and this is one of our first, well, is our first primer cane blackberry to come from that collaboration. It's got a good shape. Again, it's got a nice fruit. It's a firm fruit, so when it's being picked, it's not breaking up. You know, it's things that I hadn't always thought about, but obviously when we're picking these fruits, we don't want it squashing in our hands. We want it to be nice and firm to go in the punnets or wherever it's going to. And this is a variety that does that. It's a good eating variety, and as you can see, it's quite a high Brix there, sorry. It's 11.5% in Brix, and is a very high yielding variety within blackberries. Strawberries, this is an alpine strawberry called Scarlet Beauty. This one interests me because I think it actually crosses over with both the ornamental and the soft fruit. It has got an incredibly interesting flowering habit, and would look nice in anybody's hanging basket just as a flowering plant, but obviously then it has the added advantage, it produces a strawberry at the end of it, and I think that is something that we need to be looking at as a business for bridging both markets. This one is called Scarlet Beauty, and there's actually another one called Leo Alba, and both together actually make a nice unit. Again, it's got a sweet flavour. It's quite a small strawberry because obviously it's an alpine variety. This is our biggest variety. This is Buddy. This is introduced commercially 2 years ago. It's very sweet. It has a Brix level of 10.2. It hasn't got as good a yield as some of the other commercial varieties, but because of the shape of the fruit, the size of the fruit, and the taste, particularly the fruit with the sweetness, it's gone into Sainsbury's Taste the Difference range, which actually means that our commercial growers are getting a premium on it, which is then offsetting the slightly lower yield and is actually making it very commercially viable for our growers. And these are the sorts of things with the information back to our trial site that we have to be able to offer. Asparagus. This is a purple asparagus. I'm not sure I would fancy eating it, but I think what's interesting is we're being asked more and more for something that is different, something to put on the shelves, to go at the high-end market, to interest people for a little bit of a talk around a dinner table, something of different that they perhaps haven't seen before. And so we've started to market quite successfully this specific purple asparagus. It's got a good quality size and tends to be a little bit more tender than the green asparagus. Onto the ornamental side, this is a variety called Campanula Iridescent Bells. This is something we've introduced with a breeder based over in Holland. This is actually sterile Campanula, so it continues to flower. It's been a pig to propagate because it won't stop flowering even when we're propagating it, but actually we think we've mastered it. As you can see, very floriferous. This isn't enhanced, this is a representation of the plant. Tends to flower all season. It's got beautiful bell-shaped flowers, and also if you look, the buds on them are quite dark, so you get the sort of the light lavender and the dark buds sitting together. And very nice compact habit, and it makes a very nice 2-litre pot, to be honest, and looks very good. Very new product now. This is Salvia Lavender's Dilly Dilly. We've got about a dozen salvias which we're trying to promote into the marketplace. The stock again is held at Huntingdon, which gives me a little bit of a difference within the market. And this then is 2 echinaceas, again with the breeder over in Holland. This is a variety called Pink Shimmer. This will come out of tissue culture, and this one hasn't even been named yet. As you can see, it's got a very nice double flower. very interesting. It's had a lot of interest, and now my job now is to take that to market and make it commercial. Now, actually, it's scented, which I never thought that echinacea would be, but it's quite highly scented. So what is different about us? We work very closely with breeders in all sectors of the business. We try and offer a point of difference. Looking at that, hopefully that'll give us something different, something unique. Again, the Campanula, I've been able to offer that as an exclusive. That's been under mail order exclusive now for 2 years. The mail exclusive on that, the mail order exclusivity has finished, and it is now open to the commercial sector. But what I've done, I've managed to bring in a pink and a white to partner that, which the mail order company have then kept as an exclusive, and on the back of that, they've been told they can only have the exclusive on the pink and the white if they also take the blue one. So I think it's about offering that range and that working together with partnerships. Intellectual property management, very important to us. The primer cane, both the blackberry and the raspberry. We actually have our own in-house property management lawyer, Dr. Sue Williams. She's been in the industry a long time, especially when we get to start exporting product abroad. We need somebody who is keeping an eye on agreements and monitoring those property, the intellectual property issues. Trials material, I've touched on. Obviously, we're dealing with trials material within the business, over 50 different breeders. And obviously, the tissue culture facility. I don't think there are many nurseries in the UK who have that facility, and I do think it gives us an advantage. It starts with the business, with the soft fruit. That's where it originated, and need to have the high health material that we're able to offer as a propagator, but obviously then stems down to other products that we are doing. Obviously, we have a substantial research and development. I've already shown you the trial site, 10 acres of soft fruit trials, 5 acres of asparagus, and obviously ornamental trials is ongoing at Huntingdon, and it is our intention to then start to look to sort of make that firmer and obviously more to show our customers when they come round. Hopefully allow us to deliver the range. So what can we offer? New source of material, hopefully points of difference. We, as I've said, I touched on with mail order companies, we exclusively can offer new products. Growing to customers' requirements. We contract grow, so we're growing to, if people want a different cell size, then we can do that. And obviously excellent product range, and hopefully knowledge of all our products. In summary, it is our belief at Hargreaves, wide range of varieties, and we're able to offer product for all year round, utilising all our facilities to their full potential. The locations of our site, I think, allows us to ensure that we do focus on the individual crops, giving them the expertise and knowledge that they require. Thank you for listening.